Mega Wellness Summit. I'm your host, Nikki Jencen. I want to welcome you to the summit that creates one aha moment after the other. Mega Wellness Summit is comprised of 13 life-changing topics that will improve the quality of your life and health. Our first topic is one of my favorites that is near and dear to my heart. We're talking wheat-free with Gregory and Alan Chasen, who wrote the book Living Wheat-Free for Dummies, which I was blessed to be the technical editor for. Gregory is the author of Self-Care Reform, How to Discover Your Own Path to Good Health and Living. And he also wrote the book, like I just said, Living Wheat-Free for Dummies. He obtained a master's degree in kinesiology. He is a personal fitness trainer, a certified health and wellness coach, certified strength and conditioning specialist, cancer exercise specialist. He's got a slew of stuff, and he's crazy. Alan Chasen is the other author of Living Wheat-Free for Dummies. He has over 25 years of experience as a personal trainer working in the field of strength and conditioning. Alan also holds a degree in kinesiology with a foundation built around physiology, anatomy, and nutrition. Welcome, Rusty and Alan. How are you? It's a pleasure to have you be a part of Mega Wellness Summit.
Hi, Nikki. Thank you so much for having us.
Hi, Nikki. We're excited.
How are you?
We're doing well. How are you doing?
Doing very well. So you guys have a lot under your belt. I mean, you have 25 years of experience. You guys are just crazy trained, and I'm just honored to know you and to really learn from you guys. It was like, I want to say about a year ago or maybe even less than a year ago that I connected with you, Rusty, and this is how our relationship blossomed, is in the whole wheat-free world. You know, you're the one who really inspired this entire summit. So kudos to you. Thank you so much for being an inspiration in my life, and I know that you are inspiring people every single day. So I'm really grateful for the both of you, and even before I met you, getting to know you through the book was awesome because I was working with the editors from the publishing company and just read a lot about you, and they would talk about you. And so when the book came out, I'm going to connect with these guys. And I'm just going, I'll never be able to get to know them. And sure enough, it just kind of unfolded into this really great relationship. So I'm very grateful to know you guys, and thank you for being the inspiration for Mega Wellness Summit. You guys are changing a lot of lives.
Well, likewise.
Yes.
Likewise.
Thank you so much, Nikki, for having us on here. You put this thing together, this summit together, and it's going to change lives. I mean, the amount of work that you put into this, I don't think people can have any idea how much work you've done. And I'm just grateful that you've done that, because you will be changing lives through all these different talks that you have and people get to hear.
Thank you. Well, it's expected to have about 50,000 people attend and register for the event. So we are really charging forward with getting the information out and really changing people's lives who need to hear this information. So it's awesome. I'm very excited. And to kick off, this is the first day of the summit, and it couldn't be better than the two of you. So my first question to you guys is, the book is titled Living Wheat-Free for Dummies. You know, and as I read it, right, I'm going, okay, I know what living wheat-free is. I'm a wheat-free expert, as I like to call myself. But you guys hit this book right on the head. I loved every single bit of it. Why don't you guys explain how this book kind of got started and how it has blossomed into what it is?
Okay. Well, it sounds like you could feel our passion in our writing, because we are very passionate about this subject, and for all the reasons we're going to talk about in the next few minutes. But the book was interesting. They came to us and were looking for us to write a book about eliminating wheat from your diet. And we set out to do the outline in the beginning for them, and turned it back into them, and they came back and said, well, you're really reaching too far with this. We just want a wheat-free book. And, these are not people in the nutrition business or in the health and fitness field necessarily. So we had to quickly explain to them, well, the whole reason you're eliminating wheat from your diet is for blood sugar control and inflammation. And if we're going to base removing wheat for those purposes, then we have to look to other things that cause blood sugar issues and inflammation. And so the book went from being living wheat-free to really living grain-free, sugar-free, and vegetable oil-free. And that's where this sort of took on a much broader goal in terms of your lifestyle than just the wheat. And they were a little hesitant, but they got it, and thankfully allowed us to continue writing with those goals in mind. And that's how it became so much more, than just the living wheat-free for dummies. We then extended it even a bit further because there's so much more than just the dietary part. Is we have a chapter on exercise, and we talk a lot about stress-free, or eliminating or reducing stress in your life and getting better sleep. So, and if you want to go even further, we have some chapter in there even on how to talk to your doctor about the lifestyle that you've switched to, and also what tests you might request to show that this lifestyle is succeeding in your life.
And Nikki, one thing that we wanted to do also is, when people see the title of the book, Living Wheat-Free for Dummies, of course the first thought is just eliminating wheat. And as Alan just talked about, it's so much more than that. It's about eliminating all these other foods that are inflammatory or that affect our gut health in a way that's going to lead to disease and other ailments. So this kind of then morphed into the wheat-free lifestyle, as we now call it. And as we approach our clients on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis, we're constantly working with this very thing, helping to facilitate change in their lives so that they can live by this same kind of lifestyle. As Alan talked about, the stress and maybe getting more sleep, of course, exercise, because they're coming to us for exercise. But so much of that is included in the nutrition as well to help eliminate those foods that we need to eliminate and add in the foods that we need to for good health.
And this we are very passionate about this, as are you. And when you feel so good from making the changes that you've made and that we talk about, you want to stand on that mountaintop and scream it out and have everybody join you. It's not so much preaching as it is, come join us. Feel what we're feeling. It's like drinking Kool-Aid, although we don't do Kool-Aid because it's too high in sugar, right? But it's that kind of feeling. And the ones that do, I mean, we rarely have, if ever, have anybody that says, "Oh, it didn't work," or I did it the way you said, I did it for a long period of time, and I never felt any of the positive benefits you're talking about. Rarely, if ever, does that happen.
I've never heard that from any of my clients. Never one. The ones that are somewhat questionable about all that are the ones that have not tried it and have a hard time telling me they haven't tried it.
Or, as we'll talk about later, are running into some of the obstacles that they need coaching through, not knowing what to expect, and we want to touch on that a bit later. But it's passion. It's I think it comes through. I think it comes through in our book, and I think this is the wave of the future. I think mainstream America and the media has picked up on this type of eating and is figuring out that maybe the research isn't there yet. But anecdotally, it's hard to argue with people that just continually say, I don't have the skin problems I have. I don't have bloating. I don't have my autoimmune diseases have subsided. I've gotten off my blood pressure medication, which is usually one of the first things to drop when you cut your the sugars and the wheat. All those things, and just a general feeling of well-being and being happy. When your body's working on all cylinders, and you have energy, and you're feeding off your fat stores, you tend to be a happier person. The body is in a good place.
That is so right. I mean, I created, now shouting it from the rooftops exactly is what that's what I'm doing, because it changed my life so significantly that I created a whole program called Wheat Free Adventure because of it. And it goes way beyond just taking the grain wheat out of the diet, and it really does have everything to do. It changes you even spiritually. And you're a happier person. It's amazing. It's just, I don't even know. I don't even know what the science is behind how you can describe the feeling of it.
A lot of times I don't say that to the client I'm working with. I don't bring that up. I want them to come to me, and they do. It can take some people 3 days. It can take them a week. Everybody's a little different.
Yeah.
But they'll come and say, I feel content. That's one of the words they tend to use. And that's when I'll talk about, well, yes, that's expected and some of the reasons why. But yeah.
Were you guys eating gluten before the book?
Well,
before you wrote the book?
Well, interesting. Yeah, we were. Well, no, not before the book.
Not before the book. Probably up until, about a year or so before. We had made a change. Or two?
No. It's been.
No.
I know the date. It's been 6 years exactly.
5 or 6. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh wow.
We were both schooled in the low fat, high carb dogma. Both got our degrees in exercise science, kinesiology, and we're going back in the 80s now. But my story even goes back much further than that, because maybe it wasn't as common for other people, but I was a heavy child. I was very active, but I was fat by standards of the back then. And at 9 years old, I went to Weight Watchers. It was voluntary. I wanted to do it. And I was taught, count your calories. Now it's points for Weight Watchers in particular, but count your calories, try to exercise more. And I remember at 9 years old, you remember Melba toast? And the real thin wheat bread that was like 40 calories that they were trying to promote as weight loss. I remember eating that, and I remember writing down at 9 years old everything I ate each day, and I distinctly remember it lasted about 3 weeks. I lost 9 or 10 pounds, and I was hungry all the time. And I was thinking about food all the time. And this is what happens with that high carb, high grain type of diet, is you're in that, like I was having those blood sugar swings. It was affecting my mood. I was always hungry. And humans weren't meant to be like that. We weren't meant to be hungry all the time and think about food. But that's so my story goes back even further. It got reinforced in college as they told us, this is what the research said, whereas we never really actually looked at the research. They just told us what it said. And I think for Rusty and I, it was about 6 years ago that Gary Taub's book in front of us, Good Calories, Bad Calories. It's kind of considered a Bible amongst our group, and it's very technical. It's not an easy read. He did come out with a mainstream version called Why We Get Fat. But when I was 20 pages into this book, it was like a murder mystery for me. I had spent the previous 20 years coaching clients and being taught in college the exact opposite of what he was saying, and he laid out the science. And it made perfectly good sense. And all he said he did was he went back and read the research that had been out there for 50, 60, even 100 years.
Exactly.
He didn't come up with anything new. He just read the research. And it's as if nobody had really sat down and read it. Thanks to the Internet, he was able to go, pull up all that old research. And, with that in mind, what you're doing and how the Internet allows us to move things along faster, I think we're going to see changes quicker than we would otherwise.
Yeah, so, exactly.
To play to Alan's point, we see that on an hour-to-hour basis with our clients. It's not as extreme as, as a child going to Weight Watchers per se, but every client that comes in there already has an idea of what they need to do to lose weight, whether it's true or not, but whether it's based on the discussions that we've had with them or stuff that they continue to hold on to, information that they hold on to from the media, from what they've always been told or taught or learned wherever. So we're constantly having to try to overcome and help people unlearn what it is that they already know or what they think they know about how to lose weight or get healthy. So it's often that people come to us wanting to lose weight. And why not, right? I mean, we've been told for so long that if you want to lose weight, you just exercise more and eat less. Mm-hmm. And that was certainly the mantra of Weight Watchers and the whole point system there. Eat less or eat foods that have fewer calories and you lose weight. Well, one of my clients, and this is one of the more extreme cases, I know, but we do have an obesity epidemic in this country, by the way. And about 1/3 of all adults are obese. This particular person was 450 pounds when he came to me. And that was in 2005. I believe it was 2007 that after 2 years with working with me and failed attempts to try to lose weight, he told me in 2007, January 2nd or 3rd, whatever it was, that this was the year. This was the year to lose the weight. So I said, all right, let's do it again. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. So he meant it this time, only to the extent that he knew how, and that was to exercise more and eat less. And it worked to a point. He lost 200 pounds in 11 months. And the problem at the end of the day was it was not sustainable. He had gotten to the point where he was doing aerobic exercise an hour and 15 minutes every day, seldom, if ever. I think I could count on one hand the number of times he missed, the number of days he missed in that 11 months, and he drastically cut his calories to the point of starvation was a common thing. He just had it every day. And he ate turkey chili every day. At least two of his meals, he ate turkey chili. And sure enough, he lost the 200 pounds, but at the end of that, it was in no way sustainable. He could not maintain that same level of exercise or the starvation. And, of course, as we've heard and seen so many times before, he quickly gained that weight back. I want to say about 75% of that weight in the next 4 or 5 months. And so it's a constant struggle when you do it the way you think you should do it, not necessarily the way it should be done. And that's kind of, I think, by and large, the main issue that both Alan, of course I'm going to speak for Alan here, we face on a regular basis and trying to overcome and unlearn everything. And that's very hard to do, is to unlearn things that are just imprinted and how we've developed routines and habits around those things. Trying to break down those barriers can be very, very challenging.
And we have we had a period of time in our training careers where we preached the typical mantra, the exercise more, eat less. And we have how we preach now. And I almost feel like I did, and I was doing my best, and I was doing what I believed was right. But I feel like, in many respects, some of my clients were cheated, previously, because now they're able to achieve those goals so much easier, to the point where exercise should be fun, movement, doing something that you enjoy, not spending your life away on a Stairmaster or elliptical in a gym. If that's what you like, great. But not everybody likes that, and for a lot of people, that was enough to not even get started. Whereas now, if you can change your diet, if you can cut your grains out, sugar and vegetable oils, that's 90% of the battle. Now, let's be active, so we maintain mobility and strength. Of course, we are recommend weightlifting a couple times a week at least. But, be active and just doing and going to the park and going for hikes and things like that, that all counts. It also counts in that stress reduction, and general well-being. And we can go into a deeper philosophical question about why are we all here, Are we supposed to be stuck in a gym for hours at a time trying to look at that little number on the treadmill that says how many calories we burned, or are we supposed to go out and enjoy life? So we've seen
both. The flowers, right?
Exactly. But this works. We did the other. It's not like we started with this and are not open to looking at the other side. We were fed the other side, pardon the expression, for a long time, and now we know that is not the optimal way to reach, good health. When we're talking with our clients, I'll ask them what they eat in a typical day, and a lot of times I like to start with breakfast, because breakfast is, unfortunately, we've made it a carbathon in this country, and if anything, the carbs you're eating should be eaten later in the day. Fat and protein is what should be your first meal of the day, and you don't get that crash a couple hours later. And I was that person. I was a cereal guy. Boy, I was like Jerry Seinfeld with my 10 cereals lined up and in my bowl, and I would eat that at 6 in the morning, and by 8:30 I needed a snack. Breakfast is usually what I try to focus on in the beginning. What can we do differently? Can we get some pasture-raised eggs in there, cooked with some pasture grass-fed butter? Yeah, can we get some, cut the juice out, the orange juice we think is healthy, put off the carbohydrate side, the refined sugar that's in a lot of these breakfast-type cereals and breakfast products, and the bagel, or even a whole wheat bagel. That's the whole point of our book was one of the points was blood sugar control. And as Dr. Oz even pointed out, with William Davis from Wheat Belly on his show, if you eat a whole wheat bagel or a piece of toast or a Kit Kat bar, which one is going to raise your blood sugar more? And surprisingly, the bagel did in the majority of people. If you said to a diabetic, type 2 diabetic, here's a Kit Kat bar and a bagel, whole wheat bagel, which one should you eat? Oh, the whole wheat bagel, of course. Well, not necessarily. Not that I'm advocating eating Kit Kat bars, but you get the point. And so we're talking this blood sugar spike first thing in the morning, and it's going to affect your mood, and it's going to affect downward spiral of blood sugar where you're going to need to eat again, and you're not working at your best brain-wise. Right. So that's usually where I start, and what I think if they can make one or two changes at a time, that's what we're looking for. Like Rusty said, it was a metamorphosis, if you will, over these 6 years, where every time we've gotten better at eliminating certain things, my weight would get better. My weight would get more stable and where I wanted it, as well as my blood numbers, my lipid numbers would get better with every change I made more towards this way of eating. So it took us a while to change. I'll try to have the client make one or two changes at a time. Start with breakfast for a couple of weeks. Then they soon realized, well, I wasn't really hungry for lunch. So now we'll talk about, okay, well, maybe you don't need to eat a full lunch. Let's talk about some snack foods. Maybe carry some nuts with you, carry some chopped vegetables with you. Celery, tomatoes, or what have you. Maybe some almond butter and celery. So just something light that's easy to transport, instead of having a big lunch. And so,
one thing I like to do is, and this is kind of a tall order for the newbie, the beginner, and that is just to eliminate sugar. And once you do that, you've basically got it. It's a real challenge, and it's a real turnoff at first for a lot of people because they know how much they love sugar. I'm not one to believe in to just slowly kind of wean yourself off of sugar. I believe you do it abruptly. Otherwise, if you slowly try to wean yourself, sugar will always have a hold on you. And I believe it's very addictive, if for no other reason, psychologically as well as physiologically. And so if you get to the point where you eliminate it and experience the side effects, which there are in eliminating the sugar, you're pretty much home free because you're not going to want to go back to those foods that made you feel so bad. It gave you the achy joints. It gave you the headaches. the low energies, you'll start to feel differences immediately. It's not necessarily for me a meal per se. It could be at breakfast. It could be at lunch, but it's the entire day that you are trying to eliminate sugar. And then that morphs into all the other easily digestible carbohydrates that you need removed, such as flours and pastas and those kinds of things. But eliminating sugar and getting rid of those foods that you become so dependent upon that you may not even realize it, I think is essential, and it has to be done at some point.
Those two categories you just mentioned, Rusty, sugar and bread, they conjure up a lot of emotion in people.
Oh, yeah.
And when they start hearing, wait, I can't have bread, that takes a little while for them to get around, to get their arms around.
That's that process. I mean, and it's, you got to speak the word first and then keep preaching it, day in, day out. And eventually, they're going to come across a study, they're going to come across an article in a magazine, an email that's sent to them, or an article online. I get this stuff sent to me by my clients all the time, confirming these very things that we're talking about today. And they're saying, okay, here's reinforcement to what you're saying. I'm getting it, slowly but surely. And the hope is, over time, that too will become conventional wisdom. As the whole low-fat mantra was for so many years, we're shifting, we're moving in a different direction. And I think that's what's going to bring about this health change here in our country.
I could tell you, any food you mentioned, I could tell you exactly how many calories were in a typical serving. Whereas now, the first thing I go to is the ingredient list.
Right.
Not so much the panel there of grams, and then I go to how much sugar is in it. Those are really the only two things I focus on. But like Rusty said, with sugar, I was living in that gray area. Even during this 6 years, up until about 2 years ago, I was in that gray area with sugar because I am a chocoholic, and always have been. It runs in the family, just how it goes. And I had those daily cravings that were difficult. And it wasn't until I decided to, I'm going to try upping my fat intake and see what happens. And I did, and I can tell you there was a physiological switch that turned off in my brain. I wish I could credit it to willpower. It wasn't, because I hadn't been able to do it for 42 years up until, or 45 years up until that point. There was a physiological switch that turned off when I upped my fat intake. And I lost that desire for sugar, and it added to the change in my taste buds, because when you eliminate sugar, everything else starts tasting sweeter. Even certain vegetables, start tasting sweeter. And so for people that have a fear, I never want to give up, cake on my birthday or whatever, I usually say to them, you might find you don't really even care anymore. Yeah, it doesn't taste good. It's hard to find. And I was the guy, I was the kid who ate the icing. Sometimes there's kids that eat the cake and then some eat the icing. I was the icing kid. I wanted it as sweet as I could get it. And for me to have that change, that really I credit it to the increasing my fat, even more than I thought I was eating. It turned it off, and it hasn't come back. Everything else changes now. All these other foods that I were okay, I can eat them. They're all right. Now they taste totally different to me, and I love a lot of the real foods, as they say, which is what we're trying to tell people to eat.
If there's one takeaway that I would want your listeners to hear, and that is what Alan just said, and that is you can lose a taste for sugar. It's very real, and if you quit eating it altogether, in time, you will. I can't tell you how long that's going to take, but it will. Over time, you will no longer want sugar. And I'm amazed on a daily basis how people just do not understand that concept. Mm-hmm. They've eaten it all their lives. They've been told sugar is not necessarily good for you. We've been told just if you eat something that's got sugar in it, go work it off. Go burn the calories and everything's fine. It's just kind of neutral. We know a lot more now. that is not the case, and insulin's response to sugar and the diseases that follow when you have elevated insulin levels over periods of time. So know that, as a takeaway, know that you can defeat sugar, and it's not essential to life either. You don't have to have that sugar to be happy either.
Yeah.
And to feel good. You just feel so much better. You don't have the aches and the pains and the energy drops.
Right. Now, what else turns into sugar?
The one thing that jumps out at me, that a lot of times when we think, we have this fat phobia, we're scared to death of eating dietary fat and cholesterol. So when we say, all right, I got clients who'll say, all right, Rusty, I'll try your little thing here. I'm not going to eat any carbohydrates or I'll drop it, but I'll eat more protein. And they'll come in and they're all proud. They puff their chest up and they'll tell me, I had so much protein last night for dinner and for breakfast. Well, what they don't realize is that protein should stay about the same whether you're eating high fat or low fat. Regardless of your diet, protein stays about the same. When you elevate that protein intake beyond what your body needs, you're going to convert that into glucose in your body. So that excess protein is not doing you any good. The idea there is to increase your fat intake and decrease your carbohydrate intake. And that's what Alan and I are talking about today.
And now, do all carbohydrates turn into sugar?
Yeah, all carbohydrates and protein. Your body will convert that. Now, we can start getting into the difference between like fructose, which is really the big time culprit, and how that is processed differently through the liver. So I don't want to get too technical, but it won't raise your blood sugar, but it's bad. And high fructose corn syrup, is usually is one of the culprits they usually try to condemn. But one of the products that has the most fructose of all is agave nectar, and people pass off agave as, well, it's natural, so it must be healthy. It has anywhere between 55 and 95% fructose. And since that goes straight to the liver then churns out fat in your bloodstream and causes a lot of problems. But yeah, they believe that that's where insulin resistance starts, there in the liver. And when Alan talks about fructose, he's talking about large amounts of fructose. He's talking like when you take in sucrose, you're taking in about equal amounts, roughly equal amounts of glucose and fructose. And so fruit, when you eat fruit, the sugar in fruit is fructose. There's not enough there, plus the fiber in fruit is enough to temper that, the amount of sugar in your bloodstream. So you don't worry about eating too much fruit in terms of elevating your blood sugar, unless that's all you're eating. Okay. And some people have done that, and that's as opposed to like drinking a glass of juice. If you ever, I always tell my clients, go try to make fresh squeezed orange juice at home, and look how many oranges it takes to make a little 4-ounce glass. That is a straight shot into your veins. So
exactly.
we sort of view orange juice, or juice, I would say, as the same as soda in terms of its response in your body. A moderate amount of protein and fat don't raise your blood sugar. It's that simple. Not being a slave to your blood sugar. Oh, there's my dog, which brings up a good point. Why do we feed our dogs low-carb dog food? We talk about this all the time, too. We give our dogs high-quality dog food, if you're inclined to do that, and the higher the quality of dog food, the lower the carbohydrate content in it. But when you start, as far as I know, when you start getting into the better dog foods, that's what they cut out, is the fillers.
Yeah, the gluten.
It's the carbohydrate.
It's making the dog sick.
I mean, it's a side note, but I thought that was a good time to bring it up, because it is something how we do that for our dogs.
No, it's a great point. I mean, if your pets are having to give up gluten, you should also give up gluten as well.
Right,
I love it.
Right, exactly.
What do you think are the 10 staples of a wheat-free diet that we talk about in the book?
First, I think before we get to the 10, I think the key words to understand are grain-fed versus grass-fed and pasture-raised, because they don't distinguish in all the research that's done to say, oh, meat is bad or not, or not. They don't distinguish between grass-fed and grain-fed. And
I love that you mentioned that.
Huge difference in nutritional quality. And they can prove that. The nutrients that are in a grass-fed animal who's happy and is living, a life I think that morally we would all love them to live. There's more nutrients in their meat and a less stressful animal. So that starts to get into, the staples are grass-fed beef, pasture-raised chickens, chickens that are happy and haven't had their beaks chopped off and aren't living in the dark in a warehouse, we all know what that looks like. And
grass-fed cheese and grass-fed butter, as well as dark leafy greens, berries. Now, berries, of course, being a fruit that has more fiber to them, so that, like I said a few minutes ago, the amount of sugar is slower to be absorbed because of that fiber. Coconut oil, and if you're gonna use flour, we put you towards almond flour or maybe even coconut flour. The issue with the almond flour is the omega-6, omega-3 ratio gets thrown out of whack with too many almonds, and so, we're shooting for a 1-to-1, not to dive into a whole new topic here, but real quickly, omega-6 to omega-3 needs to be about a 1-to-1 ratio. That would be ideal. And we're roughly, 50-to-1 omega-6 to omega-3 in this country in our overall standard American diet. So we're generating inflammation in our bodies right there. So when you're eating an almond flour, for example, you're taking a large number of almonds and crushing them down to a very small amount that you will be ingesting. And when you do that, you're taking in a whole lot of omega-6s, and you got to be really, really careful of that, of course. And my favorite, dark chocolate. I'm a big dark chocolate fan.
I'm going to second that one.
And
Me too.
We recommend 70% plus in cacao level. But I'm loving the 85% personally.
I'm up to 90.
And it's got to be soy-free for me. No soy lecithin.
Correct.
Yeah, and it has
that's
to
hard
be
to find.
Pure. Exactly.
I completely agree. And it is. There are very few stores, even like Whole Foods. They, as far as I know, because I have not seen a chocolate bar there that doesn't have soy lecithin in there.
I know, it makes me mad. I also want to just commend you guys on the recipes in your book because, as you probably know, being friends with me on Facebook, is that I'm a huge foodie. And I love to eat, yes, but I love to cook, and I'm a personal chef. And so I actually cooked one of your recipes for my clients, jalapenos in a bacon blanket. Now, I did change it up slightly. I used the recipe calls for jalapenos, soft cream cheese, and bacon. I used no nitrates bacon, but what I did is I cut off the tops of sweet peppers, not jalapeno peppers, stuffed it with a honey goat cheese, and then wrapped it in bacon.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go because I got to go eat.
I know, right?
Yeah, fantastic.
I know. I'm just drooling thinking about it, and it was really amazing. And
so what it goes to show you is that you're not sacrificing anything by moving to a diet like this, right? You look at those recipes in the book, and I think that's one of the things people get hyper focused on when they do this is they start thinking of all the things they can't eat, instead of thinking about all the new foods that they are allowed to eat that they've been told they couldn't eat before. And those foods are tasty and they satiate you.
Right.
So that's a great example.
And I've made your cashew butter and chocolate chip cookies before, and those are to die for. Great job, you guys. I'm so excited to be, part of the book, but at the same time affiliated with you guys. And I really look up to you and the knowledge that you're spreading to the entire world. And your clients that you work with are very lucky to work with you too.
Well, thank you very much, and likewise. Yes. The more people in this, I don't want to call them an army, but in this group that can spread the message. You know, it's about helping people. I mean, that's the bottom line. That's why Rusty and I got into this profession, is we wanted to help people make changes. And now with this way, with this lifestyle and this way of eating, we've sort of figured out this is the easy way to get healthy. You know,
right.
We were struggling with the difficult way, and we've, you know, seemed to have found most of the answer, and it works. It works, mm-hmm. and it's a credit to you as well. Keep spreading this message, and you know, it's like that old shampoo commercial. If one person does it and other people see results from
mm-hmm.
that person, you know, it's a domino effect. You have an influence on all the people around you.
Absolutely. Now, I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to want to contact you. So I'm going to give out your information. Rusty, they can contact you at rustygregory.com. And Alan, they can contact you at Chasen Fitness, CHASEN fitness.com. And then I will post links to connect with you guys on Twitter and Facebook. Is that cool?
That'd be great.
Great.
You guys are amazing, and thanks for being a part of this huge shift and change, not only in my life, but in over 50,000 people that we're reaching. So appreciate it, and well wishes to a fantastic start, right?
Right, exactly. It was our pleasure. Our pleasure.
Thank you so much, Nikki.